Furiosa is here, and we all shall remember her name.
You have it in you to make it epic.
That is right. George Miller's prequel follow up to The Amazing Fury Road finally hits theaters this weekend with Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. And this movie, I have to say, delivers in so many different ways. But one thing I will say going in is this is not Mad Max Fury Road. Yes, there's going to be extended car sequences where there's going to be fighting and you're going to have a lot of actiony scenes, but this is very much telling a story from Furiosa when she was young, all the way up to when she's older, leading into Mad Max Fury Road, and what her character and journey was like throughout. And instead of it being a high octane chase throughout, like I think we all saw Fury Road and a lot of Mad Max may feel, this is a much more fleshed out story and really getting into the bones of not just Anya Taylor Joy as you know in Furiosa, but really everybody else in this world a bit too. I think this movie is going to be remembered for a lot of different things. Furiosa's number one, but people like Chris Hemsworth as Dementis, the main antagonist, I think is going to live on very well. I think just in general, the whole entire cast here and just the feel of Furiosa's story is going to be remembered well. The score is going to be remembered. The visual effects, I think, will be remembered well. This was a great journey back to the wasteland, and it was so nice to get, yes, your similar car chasing type feelings, but it also did not feel anywhere near the same as Fury Road did whenever we saw that take place a good bit ago. Not that long, but long enough that it feels kind of like it's been a while. Now, this story takes up a lot in the first act with a young Furiosa played very well by Isla Brown. I'm surprised how much we saw of this time period. And young Furiosa maybe not talks much, but Brown does an amazing job describing all of the emotions, kind of her feelings, and the intensity of Furiosa as that young child who had been abducted, who had seen horrors throughout, and really, I think, was able to lay a great founding base work that Anya Taylor Joy, as the movie progressed into an older, more skillful and enraged Furiosa that we kind of know and see from the actual first Mad Max Fury Road story work out perfectly. I think Brown works great not just because of her own acting as young Furiosa, but I also think in her brief appearance, Charlie Fraser, who you might know by anyone but playing Furiosa's mother in the very beginning of the movie, and I think you do see some positive nature with her, and I think you see she's able to encapsulate that like burning fire in Furiosa's mind, as well as protecting their green place. And that whole journey in the first kind of act of the movie, I think Fraser does very, very well. And really, again, you leave the imprint and you understand how young Furiosa's acting and the importance that goes on with everything that is happening and the devastation that Furiosa goes through when she sees what becomes of her mother throughout the story in the first act. Also, playing the biggest part ever is going to be Chris Hemsworth as Dementis. Chris Hemsworth, some people will call this a little bit too jokey of a role, but if you comb through the finer details, when you listen to the story of Dementis throughout, this is actually a pretty complex, interesting character, and I think Hemsworth does amazing throughout with it. I think early on, you see him kind of struggling in the wasteland, trying to build up power, trying to find a home for people who is following him and give them life worth meaning. He mentions briefly, potentially, some things about his family in the past. And if you listen throughout the whole story, Hemsworth, while doing evil things in different parts and definitely has a more sadistic side, he isn't exactly the plain cut villain I think a lot of people are making him out to be. And towards the end of the movie, he is kind of a foil to Furiosa in some way, I feel. And if she be, this is the path that she can go down and become, or she can go and turn a different corner and be something better and greater, as long as she doesn't use revenge as her only tool per se. And Hemsworth was able to deliver all the comedic chops in this Mad Max world, this Mad Max universe. But again, the writing in Dementis was very strong. He was also very clever throughout in different ways, and he showed an ability to understand to play things at multiple levels. And if it wasn't for Furiosa, you see him kind of go at Immortan Joe, who we know from Mad Max Fury Road isn't exactly a hero per se. He's definitely the leader of the Citadel and kind of the leader of the alliance between Gastown and Bullet Town in the Citadel. But when you look deeper into Mentis's character, he's not exactly fully wrong for things that he's trying to do in the power plays he's trying to make. And he's really cunning with how he's able to gain these powers without having maybe that major army. Some of the things he does in this, I think, are really you know, very smart, and you have a really well played antagonist that feels like a decent foe, but you can understand where they're coming throughout. And I think Hemsworth again plays the comedic elements well. He plays the intelligent elements very well. And at the end, when he's having his face off with Furiosa, I think he is leaving that emotional impact, and you get to understand his story as a character, where he's been through it and where he's from. Outside of that, you do have a love interest that takes place in this movie, and they're not that big of a part in this. It's important to Furiosa's story a bit, but you don't see the journey too much of how they get to the point where Furiosa is ready to potentially take this individual to the Greenland per se. Overall, Furiosa delivers great action, great cinematography, a fantastic score, and really a great overall story of revenge in its own way, but also political type dramas in this wasteland of a world, more than I thought we were going to get. Chris Hemsworth gives an Oscar nominated worthy performance in my eyes. I don't know if it would be as a lead actor or supporting actor category, probably supporting actor, but I thought his Dementis was the solid foundation that anybody could latch onto in the movie when his screen was on. I think Anya Taylor-Joy, as we get to older Furiosa, brings the fierce and the action elements. I think you see the passion, and she does so well with her eyes. Anya Taylor-Joy is a eye actress on top of all the other great gifts she has, but Furiosa and her lack of dialogue, because of it being a very car chase scene heavy type movie in parts, especially as you get to older Furiosa, she has to deliver kind of all the emotion she has with her eyes, and she does such a great job with that throughout this movie. If I have any complaints, though, is I do feel like it's going through kind of the beats of Furiosa's story. We do get points where I think we get her journey throughout, but I do think there's some parts where it kind of just skips over, and it's like, well, we have to explain how she got here, so we're going to do that really quick. But either way, I had an amazing time with Furiosa. I'm going to give this movie a diamond. It's in my diamond ranking for the year so far, and there's not been that many movies for that. I highly recommend it if you're looking to think for something in theaters that you can watch in either Dolby, IMAX, or just a good theater movie. I think this is the best one that you're going to see in theaters, at least for a little while, and just go and enjoy it. It's fun to get back into this movie type stuff, and it's fun to have a movie like this that is so bright in this wasteland. It's going to be interesting come Oscar time, because this movie has great cinematography, and Dune Part 2 has great cinematography. I think Dune Part 2 has score locked down a bit, but sound design, I think Furiosa has the edge. So we have these two sand movies that are going to be technical juggernauts at the Oscars, and very well deservingly so. So I'm excited for Oscar season for that. I really enjoyed Furiosa Mad Max Saga. Tell me down below if you've seen it yet. Are you going to go see it? How much do you love Mad Max Fury Road? Like I said, I was surprised with how good this movie was. That really says how surprised. I knew this was going to be a good movie just based off George Miller and the work he did with Fury Road, and making sure to give this story and this world justice all the way through, and I had a blast throughout. This is a great example of a summer movie that could just be beautiful. It could be high actiony, but it also delivers on a lot of different intellectual levels. So I will see you in my next reviews here on the channel. And yep, another Oscar contender, my potential Best Picture nominee. We'll see.